You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Bulldog Hour. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me is my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's great to be here, and we talked about this show last week, and it's fun to say that maybe we'll get to talk about next week's show too.
Oh, we know we're talking about next week's show because there will be a next week's show. We're week by week now. We know we got this show. Leading up to the next game, but we don't know if the next show will be the last. But we know because we had a victory Saturday yesterday, and we have celebrations Sunday here on the Bulldog Hour's 17th episode of Season 7. And because of the Wilson victory over Central York Friday night, we will get an 18th episode coming to you next Sunday.
Yeah.
Justin, did you ever think that we would be here? Do you think we'd be talking about a district championship game appearance? Maybe in the preseason?
Okay, so here's the thing. To say I expected it, it would be a lie. But I would like to go on the record, and you can check this because we said it on the show countless times, that I've been preaching since September that only one goal was off the table, and that was to beat Mifflin. And that everything else was still on the table, and that would include a district championship. And guess what? We sit here in the, tomorrow marks the middle of November, and we're still playing football, and there's still practice tomorrow, and there's still football games next weekend, and here we are.
And one of the biggest preseason goals is just a few days away from being a reality. Right. One more win, and you can call yourself district champions.
Yeah.
In District 3, one of the most competitive districts in the state.
So a couple weeks ago, you made the reference to the 2008 Phillies, which, again, to remind you, I don't know that any of these kids were even in school yet at that time.
That was 13 years ago, Justin.
So they were not, and you look at it and you said, "Why can't us?" And
that's right.
That's basically where I was at last week. I'm like, why can't us?
Well,
right?
let's
keep it rolling.
We have also been saying for how long how wide open District 3 6A was. Like we've been preaching that for a while, saying that not only could any of the top 8 teams that make the playoffs win, but honestly, you might even be able to throw in numbers 9 and 10, right, depending on the game.
So yeah, we have been talking about that for a while. It also links to the idea a little bit for me about what our buddy Andy Herr has been preaching again since October, that like every game has been a playoff game for Wilson.
Battle tested.
And we didn't know how true that was until you were running some numbers, and it turned out that it was.
Yeah. Well,
since the day after the Manheim Central game, Wilson has won every game, and they had to.
Also, the last time I shaved, by the way.
Yes.
And like I tweeted out, that is on purpose. Yes. There is no coincidence there whatsoever. This is not a fashion statement, by no means, trust me. But, we have our superstitions and traditions.
Would you consider yourself superstitious? No, I consider myself a little
stitious. I mean, you and I have that about hats and shirts and whatever, and it's just one of those things. And it's not Wilson football related. It's everything in the sports world, because obviously what Justin and I do really matters when it comes to what happens on the field. But feeling pretty good right now. Friday night was just honestly was a little surreal, because I never felt myself get overly anxious,
right,
because honestly, from the kickoff, I was like, we're going to win this game.
So we always, and we reference this on the show a lot, we always have a variety of conversations football related and other things related on the drive to these away games. The last 2 weeks driving to York, we've had plenty of time to talk. And so with that, I remember we were getting close to Columbia and the Bridge at some point, and I was like, so about this game, right? And we kind of laid it out. And I remember distinctly, you're like, I think we're gonna win. Like, I think we have a real shot. Well, and I'm like, and you said, because they haven't faced a team like us, like as physical as us, as strong as us, that's just gonna run it right at them. And that's true. I think we saw a little bit last week what York brought to the table, and they had Jaheim White, and he is incredible. And those offers and visits are starting to come now for those
big ones.
And we're hitting that recruiting season now too, the end of the high school football season, and his junior year, that's going to continue. But the style of running is very different than what the Wilson team is able to do, and Central York was not ready for that.
No. You nailed it. We talked about it, and Central York hasn't had any real competition outside of their week 1 game at Exeter, which was a slugfest, which they were, honestly, Central York was probably lucky to come away with that win. Exeter made some mistakes.
By all accounts, Exeter left a lot of points on the table.
And Central York hadn't been in dogfights and battles like we have been for 7 weeks. I know those first 3 in the LL League ended up being pretty easy wins for Wilson. They weren't flawless, and there were mistakes made, but they were comfortable. But all of them were must wins. And then you got to Hempfield and Manheim Township, and we've discussed the numbers. Wilson loses one of those games. This moment isn't happening. We're done. Our show is over. There's no district playoff appearance whatsoever. So I was very confident going into the Central York game because I just didn't think the Panthers had been tested, like the way Wilson was going to test them. That's not to say
that they aren't good. They're a good football team, and I say this. I shouldn't say it like that, I guess, but when they're not the teams of past that we've that have come to Gursky often and played Wilson in the district playoffs. Like, that is not what this Central York team was.
No, they were much more tough and physical than previous York teams that have come to Gursky.
And better. Like, that's a good team. They were a good team.
They were state runner-up last year.
Right. It's just Wilson was a tough matchup for them. And we've talked about this, about how what team is going to be excited or want Wilson to come,
Yeah, well, we said that entering the playoffs when Wilson was going to be in the lower part of the bracket, seeds 5, 6, 7, or 8. We knew the Bulldogs are going to have to go on the road, and if I'm 1, 2, 3, or 4, I'm looking at it, they're going, oh crap! What do I really want to face Wilson winning this many games in a row, getting confidence, finding an identity, getting healthy? Do I want any of that?
Right.
I wouldn't have wanted it.
Right.
And I think now, maybe in hindsight, Central York's like, that was probably a bad draw. Wasn't ideal.
Yeah.
But the other reason that I'm very confident throughout the season, even sitting at 2 and 3, I didn't think the season was going to be a lost cause and they were going to spiral. And because going into every game, I always have myself convinced, and there's data to prove it, we have the better coaching staff.
Yeah.
I know there's people out there that fight that all the time, make baseless accusations, and think they can do better. I just don't see how that's possible when you look at the success. That's not limited just to the 15 plus years with Doug Dahms as head coach. It goes back farther than that, because a lot of these coaches were there during the Jim Cantafio era too. The results speak for themselves. So it boggles my mind when people think that coaching is a reason for losing streaks. And I go into games, even games that were considered underdogs, and thank you to Fourth Down Magazine and all those mid-pen writers that picked Central York. Andy Sandrick got his wish and was hanging up in the locker room again this week, as he was for the week 1 game against Central Dauphin. I hope they all pick Harrisburg this week. I hope they do. Good. Do it.
Right.
I dare you. If they haven't learned their lesson by now, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
So, with the way that this team is rolling, and not only has the players gotten momentum and confidence, I think the coaching staff has embraced that as well.
I've also got to give credit where it's due then. If we're going to call out the guys, not call out, but bring up.
I know you're going to say.
Us. Jeff Reinert went on the record and picked us. Like, he did it. Like,
that doesn't surprise me. And Jeff is a very good picker because he doesn't just go by records and stats.
Right.
He understands the feel of the game and the feel of these teams. He very rarely picks against Wilson, and honestly, when he usually does, he's usually right. Because I remember back in 2017 and 2019 picking Manheim Township over us, and guess what? Township beat us.
Right, and yeah, I mean,
Jeff is very good at what he does, and he picked us to beat Central York.
Yeah, and it was an exciting game. I know people might be like, it was 14-11, but like, it wasn't a sloppy game. It wasn't, it was just, oh man.
Yeah. Well, here, I'm gonna play the highlights while we talk about it.
Wilson imposed their will. Like, if you were to tell me that, there'd be 25 total points, I would have said that's exactly what we need. Like, yeah, well, that's the type of game we want.
In our drives, we always say, if the defense surrenders 20 or less, we expect to win that game.
Yep.
How many they give up? 11. Yeah, and we're gonna, I'll wait until the highlights are over here as we kind of put that out there. And if you're listening to us, the highlights right now, it went into half tied 3-3. Ben Rada kicked his first field goal attempt of the year, was good.
Great pump fake and double move.
And I sent out a gift today of Brad's pump fake on that. So that was a great pitch and catch from Brad to Evan. That was still in the first half, but here we are in the third quarter now. It's still tied 3-3. Wilson took their opening drive of the second half into the red zone, but unfortunately fumbled the ball away. Central York eventually capitalized in 4 plays real quick. That was the only time that Central York really was able to get any momentum going and show that quick hit offense to go up 11-3. They went for 2 because Wilson had a penalty, moving them closer to the goal line. They got the 2-point conversion, and that was one moment where I was like, that could be a huge mistake.
Right.
That could be a huge mistake. It turned out not to be because of the way the team played. But here you get to see a slightly high throw deflected.
Honest, I wasn't sure I caught that on the camera.
Well, apparently you did.
I did, but I wasn't sure if I did.
Interception by Gannon Brubaker. He made 2 phenomenal catches on the same play because he made a diving catch, brought it to his body, it bounced off of him, and he caught it again.
Yeah.
So yeah, phenomenal play. These auto-generated highlights are not the best. I say that every week, and I just keep forgetting to compile them myself.
But when I look at it, Wilson was able to have long spells where they had the ball, which was great, because that's what we needed. We didn't want to give the Central York air raid offense more touches than we needed to.
Yeah.
Just and to able to, like, if you would have told me we pick off their quarterback as often as he throws touchdown passes, that's another good sign.
Yeah.
And we had opportunities for a couple more.
But Coach Dahms brings that up.
Yeah, he does.
We talked to him.
But when you look at it, I sent you a message like maybe early fourth quarter, and like their defense was gassed. Like, they were gassed.
That was right before the game-winning.
We have the long drive for the touchdown, and then we get the 2-point conversion on the awesome. First of all, I love the play call. We just ran it down their throats whole game.
Stop us.
And then you get to the 2-point conversion, and you line up the same way you have. And it was funny. There's a kid recording for something else next to me on top of the press box, and he's like, "Oh, run again."
Nope.
And you hit your tall wide receiver with a great catch, and he got hit. Like, it was well defended. It's just,
well, the picture
you
I
made
have
the perfect play.
Is it unfortunately not making the catch, but coming to the ground, and there's 3 Central York defenders on Sean Dendel.
Yeah, he put Brad sold the run, took his time, put the throw where it needed
Throw
to
it
be.
to your 6'4" receiver. It makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, it worked. It worked.
And Sean had an incredible catch against Manheim Township a few weeks ago.
Right. Like, so we talked to them that was last week.
We talked to them after York, yeah.
And they talked about, it's about the it's about the win. But on the show, we mentioned that, like, but they're all ready when their number's called to make a big play. And whether that's Williams making the double move and making the great catch down the sideline, which then, all right, they have to adjust and say, all right, well, we can't keep everybody right at the line of scrimmage or bite on everything. Like, just those things add up over the course of the game, or whether it's the downfield blocking or whatever it is. TJ steps up when he gets the ball on some of the ones that, like, end arounds, like those types of things. Everybody's just kind of doing their part, and it was huge. But then they go 3 and out.
Yeah.
Right? We kick off, and they go 3 and out, and with 2 drop passes. And then you're like, oh, man, they were not expecting to be in a dogfight in the fourth quarter of an 11-11 game. Like, I'm not saying they thought, oh, it's going to be easy, but, like, I think they thought, oh, we'll be able to score. Like, and I was telling you I was on their sideline. It was shell-shocked over there. They were not, you hear the moaning and groaning, and they're like, come on. Like, so yeah, it's not that easy.
After they went 3 and out, and they only spent 43 seconds on that drive.
Yeah.
Our drives throughout the night we had a 7-minute, 44-second drive that led to the field goal. We had a 5-minute plus drive that unfortunately was turned out on downs. We had a 3-minute drive that ended in a fumble. We had a 2-minute drive that ended in downs, but then our next 2 drives was nearly 7 minutes, resulting in the touchdown and the 2-point conversion to tie the game at 11. Then, after the 43-second drive by Central York, that was the 3 and out, we got the ball back with 7:14 to play and ran 6 minutes and 1 second off the clock.
Right.
So it went from 7:14 to 1:13.
When we got the ball at that time left, I just immediately was like,
this is the game.
I was like, this is Hempfield. We're going to drive down and score. And you sent me a message.
Yeah, so
you said, I'm staying down here because we're coming right down here to score.
Yeah, so I was in the end zone, in Central York's defending end zone for the drive that led to the touchdown and the 2-point conversion. By the time I transfer and edit my photos and post them, Central York's punting again. Like, I hadn't even had an opportunity to take pictures of the 3 and out drive because I was still in the middle of trying to celebrate the touchdown. We get the drive back at our 25. That's exactly what I texted you. I was like, I'm not leaving this end zone because we're coming down here again. And what happened?
We did.
When we were a couple yards short of the end zone,
right.
We didn't need to get in the end zone because Ben Rada, second field goal attempt of his career, nails it again. It was close to being blocked. I sent out that gift today as well.
And that kid, I believe it was number 9.
Number 9, yeah.
Was
distraught,
beside himself on the sideline. And I understand that's tough. That's tough. But then you're like, all right, well, here you go. Number 1 quarterback recruit in Pennsylvania getting the ball back
with a minute 13
a minute 13 left. No timeouts.
Well, because first attempted to, like, sort of kick it.
Right.
And it goes out of bounds. Right. They make us re-kick it.
Right.
To give them even a shorter field.
Yeah, but see, they only gained a few yards from that.
It didn't end up hurting.
It took a few seconds, which I was okay.
Yeah, the first one didn't run on any
right,
time
it didn't,
off.
But, like, for the few yards where they could have just accepted it the first time, they could have saved themselves maybe 5 or 6 seconds.
They might have tried one more shot at the end zone before the field goal.
Absolutely.
And like Coach Dahms and staff contemplated going for an attempt at a touchdown facing 4th and well, so it wasn't a to-go situation for Wilson.
No, they could have gotten the first down.
It was
because that's what
4th and 2 from the 4, I think.
Right. What I say wanted to happen on 3rd down was I was like, man, if we can get the first, then we can run it down, take our timeouts, take a couple cracks at the end zone, and
see that's something that came up in conversation over the last couple of days. Is if you get that first down, do you take some knees and plan for a chip shot field goal?
So you
attempt to score? Or
I go with that. I go with the big formation that we've been running, and I run it 2 times, and then if we don't get it on 2 tries,
take a knee and run it down to like 3
or
seconds
if we
left.
lose yards on the other one, I run it down and we kick with
3 seconds left.
2-3 seconds left.
Well, so like it's one of those things.
So what I thought they were going to do was I thought they were going to line up and try and get them to draw off sides because I believe it was 4th and 2 at the 4.
Yes.
It would have been close because I don't know what side of the yard mark and all that stuff, but like if an offsides would have gotten us the first down, try and get them to jump off sides, call timeout, and then run the field goal team out there. That's complicating things, though. I like the way it worked out. I like that they were like, no.
I'm not second guessing anything.
No, we're putting the kicker out there. We're putting the kicker out there, and we're going to win the game right now.
One of the game write-ups, talking with, I assume it was Coach Dahms, is that his staff told him, like, they convinced him to go for
take
the
the points.
Take the points.
Yep.
Don't try to run the clock down farther. Just take the points and trust your special teams and your defense can make a stop. And that's end of what happened. Central York, same thing for them. They faced a situation. You have the best quarterback in the state of Pennsylvania. You have an offense that is lights out, which I'll get to in a second, for the better part of 5 years.
Yeah.
You're facing, you already converted a 4th and 16, something like that. You got down to the 25 or somewhere right around this, or actually I think they were down as close as like the 15 because the field goal was a 32-yard attempt.
Right.
You got 5.6 seconds left. Do you try one more?
I was stunned they didn't. I was stunned they didn't take the shot with their best player.
Trusting a freshman kicker who had already made one, and it wasn't much longer than what he had made.
It wasn't short.
No,
it missed.
It was
left.
pulled. It was pulled.
And to be honest, from where I was standing, I thought he made it. It was just the angle I was at, and I'm watching through the screen. It was tough to see.
When he first released, and I was watching, I couldn't tell.
Right.
But I saw our players' reactions, so I knew.
We'll see. And part of what happened too was the people right around me, underneath me, were cheering because
they couldn't tell.
They couldn't tell.
So the players reacted before the refs made the signal because they could tell when it was kicked.
Right.
Like almost immediately, you can see in my picture,
right.
It's kicked, and the players react a split second later because they know it's going wide.
Right.
But from the side angle views, you can't tell.
That's tough for a freshman.
Oh my gosh! Can you imagine being in that situation?
No.
That's incredibly tough.
Right.
But then if you go for the end zone and run out of time, you have people going, "Why didn't you kick the field goal?"
Right. Right. And
you already made one from 29, 32.
And they don't have the timeout. Like they don't have the timeout. Right. Like
so if they get stopped short, then it's game over.
It's over. And you look at it, but it wasn't just our sophomore kicker. It was our sophomore holder.
Yes.
And not our usual long snapper, correct?
Right. So the job usually was Cam Jones, the junior special teams whiz and shutdown defensive back, missed more than half the game with an injury suffered towards the end of the second quarter. So I think it was sophomore Ryan McMillan. So you had 3 components of this game were done by 10th graders.
Right.
So you had Ryan McMillan snapping, you had Adam Woods holding, and you had Ben Rada kicking. So all being done by underclassmen to ensure that the seniors got one more game.
Right. And,
so
I mean, special teams has been huge for this team all year, not necessarily field goal kicking.
No attempts before this game.
Right. But hey, they practiced and they were ready, and when their time came, just like we talked about the receivers earlier, when the time came, they made the play. Awesome.
So, a little bit was said. I think a little disappointment happened last week at York with the team giving up so much yardage and points to William Penn. And now you're thinking, well, we got to go to Central York and play the number 1 quarterback in the state. This team is routinely putting up 40, 50, 60, or even 70 points over the last couple of seasons. I mean, we have to hold them under 20 to win this game.
Right.
So I went back and looked. When was the last time that Central York was held to this few points? 11 is the least amount of points that a Central York team has scored since they were shut out by Cumberland Valley on September 8th, 2017. They have scored at least 12 or more points, which doesn't sound like a lot, but they scored way more than that more often than not. every game since, until Wilson held them to 11. It's amazing what the defense was able to do, and without Cam Jones in the defensive secondary for the second half.
Yeah,
I mean, has been your shutdown best defensive back now for last year he was amazing. This year he's playing so well, and you lost him on special teams too. So the job that the defensive players and the coordinator, the game plan created by Ernie Wolber and his assistants, just phenomenal. And the execution was there. That's the thing. The game plan, more often than not, is there. And what we weren't seeing early in the season was execution. And that's not just a defense thing. That was everywhere. The execution was failing. They righted some things. The execution is there. And now you're winning games that people don't think you can win.
Right. Well, and you go back to some of those post-game talks from Coach Dahms earlier in the year, and he said, we need to improve everywhere. We need to be, basically, to summarize, we need to put the players in better positions to win, and the players need to play better to win. Like everyone from the whole program through needed to be better. And I fast forward to Friday night. Oh my gosh. Like offensively, we played very well. I know that people are like, you scored 14 points, but man, like it's different when you're there. You got to see it. I thought they played very well.
Well, you got to take into account the entire season too. You got to take into account the opponent.
Right.
The execution was there. The way the offense is running now, the points aren't going to be prevalent.
No, and you know how many points you need? More than the other team. More than they did. And the defense, man, again, the plan was there and the players executed and they got it done. And what I like to think about, I know we're not done and we're not kind of moving on yet, but think about because we still weren't perfect. It was a good, solid all around game, right? But this team can get better. This team, they can still clean some things up and hit on some more things. And if they continue to get better, man, that'll be awesome. Just a quick, this is a real random note, but I just saw it pop up. One of the notifications from one of the likes was while we were filming one of the interviews, like your notifications pop up, and one of them was like for one of the posts that you had about like Wilson's Ben Rada kicks game-winning field goal. The like was from Nick Borelli. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like kicker.
Hey, he knows what it's like.
Game respect game.
One of those field goals is he was able to send the game to overtime that Wilson eventually won back in 2016.
Yes. Yep.
Were you at that game?
No. But yeah, right. And but overall, what a classic game. What a game. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, the stats are just incredible again. Wilson had more first downs, 21-16. Net yards rushing. This is the big one. 348 for Wilson, 11 for Central York. Now, they weren't a run first team. They weren't York where you had
but they are like they will run the quarterback.
Yeah.
And they have good running backs.
They had 11 attempts for 11 yards, so the average pretty easy on that one. It's incredible. Now they ended up with 308 net yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
All right,
but we talked about this, and it's cherry picking. But if you take away that one big pass that set up their touchdown,
so what?
And the desperation passes in the final minute
where we were still able to get tackles inbounds, and I know it stops with the first down, but there were precious time wasted. So for example, like their last few plays before when they had to spike it, right? They spiked it on first down, threw a pass on second down, spiked it on third down. Mm-hmm. So like the tackling inbounds is huge. Because you're giving, because they were well within range to throw into the end zone, and you're causing them to give up downs. Those are downs that they don't get back, and we'll take that. We'll take you throwing it into the ground because that's not putting points on the board.
So if you follow our cherry-picking nature of eliminating some of these pass attempts, he threw for under 200.
Yeah.
Well, if you compartmentalize that, take away the only big pass play of the game, which was like 50, 60 yards, and led to their touchdown. So negated most big plays, gave up that one. And then the desperation mode at the end, where he was able to find more open receivers. Then he had most of the rest of the game.
But even there, he was thrown underneath, and then
he also got sacked.
Yeah,
which was absolutely huge.
Yeah, and I was stunned that he didn't throw it away, because it wasn't like immediate. It was he kind of stepped up, kind of like
he ran.
But the pressure was there, and the pressure wasn't just from one guy. We were getting pressure. I mean, they're going to pass it, but
relentless.
Right. We were able to create pressure without sacrificing coverage on the back end, which is huge.
Time of possession. This harkens back to Manheim Township 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We had it for 33 minutes and 42 seconds, which means Bo Pribula only had it for 14 minutes and 18 seconds.
Yeah.
More than doubled them up.
Yeah.
That's how you control and win ball games, especially when a perceived better opponent is across the field from you.
And what was it in the fourth quarter? Basically, probably only 2 minutes?
Yeah, well, it's broken down here. Central York in the second half had the ball for 5 minutes and 11 seconds.
Right.
In the second half. 2 minutes in the fourth quarter. That's it.
Right.
Sounds like a pretty good game plan.
Yeah.
Last thing to point out, the defense held Central York to 1 of 8 on third downs. Get off the field.
Incredible.
Get on, get the job done, get off. Let the offense and special teams do their thing. And they did.
Yeah.
They got it done. So Herculean effort, amazing 7-week run. I mean, just think about where we were, what we were thinking after the Exeter game, and then 2 weeks later after the Manheim Central game. Everyone was down and deflated, but like we said, and we've heard Coach Dahms and the coaches say, there's still a lot to play for, and see what happens when you don't give up.
Well, and so look at it. Look at this, too. This is kind of crazy. So the teams that beat Wilson, so Exeter lost to Central York, lost to Hempfield. Wilson has now beat both those teams. And Exeter is still playing, and they're a 5A semifinalist.
And they just smoked Manheim Central.
Which we saw coming.
Called it all week long.
So Manheim Central, was that their first loss?
No, second. They lost to Warwick.
Oh, okay. So they lost to Warwick, which is kind of crazy. But then, so they lost to Exeter. So that was Wilson's other loss. And Governor Mifflin, who hasn't lost to anybody
and Exeter lost to Mifflin.
And probably isn't going to lose to anybody, at least for weeks yet. That,
I think they have Spring Grove this week.
Right. So, it's, don't get me wrong. Yeah, you want to win those games. But, those are good teams. And Wilson was able to move on from that and get better. And now that goal is still there. That goal is there and attainable on Saturday.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. It says a lot about the team. But these guys, it's one thing to know that it's possible. It's another to put it together and make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys did it, and kudos to them.
There's in an alternate universe, if right now, if this week Wilson's playing Manheim Central, we blow them out.
Yes.
We should have beat them in week 5, and I know their coach does not see it that way, but we lost. I still thought we were the better team,
and I know for a while, other people, I say outside of the Wilson area, so other reporters and stuff probably would have been I don't know. Ask them now.
Yeah,
ask them now.
Who do you think wins right now?
Right, and they'd all be on board with Wilson.
I would expect so. I would think so. I told multiple people this week Exeter is going to beat Manheim Central and beat them by multiple touchdowns. No one was listening to me outside of you, basically, because I've been saying that since
Right,
I
and
knew that was the
I'm
matchup.
on board.
Exeter's winning that game.
Right.
Man, it's at Manheim Central. Manheim Central, I don't think is that good.
No.
We should have beaten them. I still maintain we should have beaten them.
Right. And we weren't playing then like we're playing now.
No, my gosh, nowhere close. Because right now, we're playing with a team that for the first time in program history has 2 1,000-yard rushers.
Yes.
That has never happened in the previous 76 seasons. Now, I know there are not as many games as there are now, but we're only up to 12. It's not like we're talking about 15, like an entire length of playoffs. And I know before 1982, there were no district playoffs, so you had 9, 10, 11 games max. It's not all, it's not all fair in statistics. It doesn't work out that way. But even if you want to just say, all right, well then you only can look at the years with playoffs. It's fine. It still hadn't happened. Still hadn't happened in the last 40 years because this is the 40th season of the district playoffs.
Right. And we've had some incredible teams that could have incredible runners on them. It didn't happen.
Yeah, so Jadyn Jones went over 1,200 yards with his, was 167 or 161?
I think he had 161.
161 this week. So, yeah, Jadyn Jones, 27 carries, 161 yards this week. It put him over 1,200 yards for the season. Brad Hoffman needed 130-something. You had asked me that as you were holding the stat sheet. You were like, do you know how much Brad needed to go over 1,000?
Because I knew it was 130. Close. Right.
And you're like, Brad got 167. I was like, oh, dual 1,000-yard rushers. I wonder when's the last time that happened. And then I saw Jeff Reiner post their stats about Jadyn's up to this amount, Brad's up to this amount. They're going to take 1,000-yard rushers to whoever, is their opponent this coming week. And I said to Jeff, I was like, oh, man, I got to go and see. When was the last time Wilson had 2 1,000-yard rushers? And he responded, he's like, yeah, it's happened. It wasn't in recent memory. And I looked, I triple checked because I was like, I feel like this happened before, right? No, it hasn't. So Jadyn Jones and Brad Hoffman, congratulations on being the first duo ever at Wilson to each rush for over 1,000 yards in the same season. Jaden is up to 16th on the single season rushing list, and he missed 2 games that he could easily have probably close to another 200 yards.
Oh,
maybe
gosh,
more.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, just a phenomenal season from Jaden. And so not only is Brad part of that duo, 2,000-yard seasons, he's also, and I had to kind of double check this one too, first Wilson quarterback to ever rush for 1,000 yards in a single season.
Right.
And it's tough to believe.
We talked like last year in a normal year, Caleb probably gets there.
Yeah.
I mean that meaning like he gets there.
He played so Wilson played 7 games last year. Caleb played 6, I think.
So.
I think he played 6. And he rushed for 776 yards. High 700s in those 6 games, and he set the quarterback rushing record and then broke it again later. He had some phenomenal rushing games, but because of the shortened season, he didn't have the opportunity to keep going and get to that 1,000-yard mark. But Brad did it this year. He also missed a game.
Yeah.
The offense was different then, though. But that's what I'm thinking. Like, imagine if this is like what they do from the whole season.
Just like the goals. None of that matters.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, no,
none of that matters.
Hindsight.
It's all now.
Just talking about individual performances and stats.
And we've got it rolling now, and let's keep it going because I know Central York was the number 1 seed, and I know they were state runner-up last year, and I know they have the quarterback recruit and all that stuff. I'm not convinced that they're better than Harrisburg. You know what I mean? Like, if they would have been playing Harrisburg this week, I don't know that Harrisburg doesn't win that game. You know what I mean? Like, I probably would pick Harrisburg over Central York. So that was a big step, and I hope they enjoyed it. And we know they're getting to work today about making it happen this weekend.
Yeah. So before we move on, we'll do our sponsorships and then talk about Harrisburg. I got a message today asking a little bit more about information on records. This one's not an individual. This is a team record because and Jaden and Brad are always keen to point out that they wouldn't be able to do what they've been able to do the last few weeks without the help of their offensive line and blockers like the tight ends the wide receivers.
Who also got a helmet sticker from
Jeff
Reiner
Reiner was
weekend.
giving them out. He was just like, Wilson offense. You're getting the helmet stickers this week. But the question was, what is the Wilson program record for season rushing combined, everyone? I looked it up, and it was actually set relatively recently in 2010. So the 2010 team rushed for 3,308 yards in 12 games. So that's where we're at right now with this 2021 team. The current team sits at 3,032. So if they're able to rush for 277 yards or more against Harrisburg this Saturday, this team will have rushed for the most yards in program history. Doing most of that in the back half of the year. I mean, there were some good games in the front half, 2 wins and some offensive yardage and points being put up, but just the way things have gone since Penn Manor.
Make it happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just another motivating factor. People picking against you and individual and team accomplishments.
You're gonna get picked against this week too, because people are gonna write off that it was Central York and the things that we have said that Central York, like, you know, they underestimated Wilson, and Harrisburg won't do that. I'm telling you, it's coming. Like, people, maybe not everyone, but the masses are going to tell you that it's going to end this week, and that, you know, it's been a good ride, but now you play Harrisburg and it's going to come to an end.
Yeah. And you got to do it on the road again, which is no different than the last 2 weeks. I mean, Coach Dahms talked to us and multiple people about being road warriors. They did it in 2007. Honestly, this exact scenario essentially playing out. Now, that game wasn't for the district championship. It was semifinals because at the time 16 teams made the playoffs. But Wilson had to go to, I think it was Altoona in the first round and upset them. Then they won the next week, I think, against the York school. It might have been York or Central York. And then went to Harrisburg. So sitting at 2-0, both road wins, go to Harrisburg Thanksgiving weekend, because I remember I was driving back to Indiana and I listened to the game, and as I'm getting on the turnpike, Wilson loses in overtime, and that was a tough one. There was a whole bunch of issues about that game, which I think we've rehashed on this show before. But the Harrisburg opponent is definitely an interesting one. But before we dive into that, I think we should get into our sponsorships and make our announcements. So I want to thank my dad, Bill Mays, and Mays Sandwich Shop for being a day one sponsor of this program. We appreciate everything that he has done for us over the years. And again, thanks to our latest sponsor, who's been here now for a while, but it is Mike Drago and MikeDragoSports.com, who continues to provide great coverage of a variety of sports this fall, football and soccer primarily, but a few other cool pieces have been published on there. And I know Mike and his stringers and photographers are getting ready to delve into basketball, but if these Berks County teams keep winning, he's going to have to be pulling double duty, as Wilson's still alive. We just talked Exeter still alive, and obviously Mifflin too, and why missing? So 4 Berks teams still left playing. I think that's it. I didn't forget anyone, did I?
No.
And
because Hamburg was the other one, but
they lost this week. So congratulations to those Berks County schools, Exeter, Mifflin, and Wyomissing. Continue to play like Wilson. All of them will be in action this coming Friday, Saturday, with the hopes of winning district championships or advancing to district championships. Exeter and Mifflin are in the semifinals, whereas Wyomissing and Wilson are in the district finals. So another great year of Berks football, and we appreciate MikeDragoSports.com being a sponsor of us here at the Bulldog Hour. In addition to May Sandwich Shop and MikeDragoSports.com, we want to thank CNS Supply Company, Andy Herr and Marty Palm, and our 3 anonymous donors. If you would like to contribute and help out here at the Bulldog Hour, in addition to sponsorships and advertising, the in-kind donations, be sure to visit the website and the home of the Bulldog Hour at bulldoghour.com. besides current info, I have a lot of historical info on there. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been building out the team page for the 1971 season because just yesterday was the 50th anniversary of the conclusion of that season and what was one of the best games in Berks County history between Wilson and Mifflin at West Lawn. Lots of great information on the page. A lot of information originally came from player Mike Kemp, including the pictures that I posted, and then I was able to fill in with some of the articles from the Reading Eagle and a variety of Lancaster-Lebanon newspapers from newspapers.com. Those pictures were very entertaining to look through because, one, and what was pointed out after I tweeted them out, look at the crowd at that game.
Yeah.
None of the articles, unfortunately, gave a number, but they was mentioned as standing room only. If you look at those pictures, that place
It was a massive humanity. Yeah, there was nowhere to go.
It was jam-packed, and I don't know the last time the stadium was that full.
Like, I don't think the fire marshals would let it get that full.
It was
like, oh my gosh.
It was jam-packed.
Right.
Jam-packed. The uniforms were something. I pointed out for the uniform aesthetics people that you got a color-on-color matchup, which looking at some of these old games in the game film, you don't comprehend because it's usually the pictures are in black and white. Right. And some of them were. Some of the good ones were in black and white, but there were a few color ones, and which I noticed immediately was Wilson wearing red, Mifflin's wearing what is supposed to be gold, but to me looks like mustard yellow. But they have the same color helmet, jerseys, and pants, and it is just wacky.
Broncos went with a similar look today.
And I'm an orange guy. I love the color orange.
I loved it.
I don't like their color.
I liked it. I
liked the throwback Denver D on the helmet.
Yes, that was cool.
But I didn't like the orange tops, orange pants. So I hated the Mifflin uniforms. I could they were gross. The 1970s mustard yellow helmets, jerseys, and oh man, they were bad. Wilson looked good. Red and white. Can't go wrong. Looking good. But not only have I updated the 1971 page, there's a variety of other pages that are in there. And even if they've been updated, have been published for a while, I have been going back through and adding more and more pictures and recaps and newspaper articles. So if you played at Wilson, you want to go relive your season, go check out BulldogHour.com under history and heritage. And if your season's not done yet, I'll get there eventually. There's 77 seasons, so and each season takes me multiple hours. So just be patient. The last way you can help us here at the Bulldog Hour is Justin's favorite.
Like and share.
Also, one of his favorite here is the schedule, which I'm realizing now I actually missed one. So we're technically have a little bit more left than what's listed on here because 6A States is 3 rounds. It goes into the weekend of the 10th and 11th. And actually, they have championships on Thursday, but that will not be in 6A. 6As will be on Saturday the 4th. But this was supposed to be Friday because that's normal high school football games are played on Friday. But the game this week against Harrisburg will be Saturday, November 20th at 1 o'clock. The next week, the 6A States, which would be the quarterfinals, will be on either Friday or Saturday the 26th or 27th of Thanksgiving weekend. District 3 is the home team for this year. I had some pushback that they're not sure that the District 3 team that wins, be it Wilson or Harrisburg, will actually get to host the game based on last year, Delaware Valley versus Central York. That was the the 6A quarterfinal game that District 3 participated in. The other district, which was District 2, Delaware Valley, was the quote home team last year. They hosted it at Delaware Valley. Now, there are some questions of whether that was just because of COVID, that they didn't want to introduce a neutral site. Schools didn't want 2 visiting teams coming in, so they defaulted to the team that was on the upper part of the bracket, which was District 2 or 4 last year, being the champ, Delaware Valley. They hosted Central York, which is quite the drive to go from Central York to Delaware Valley up in Scranton-Wilkes-Barre area. This year, District 3 champ is the quote home team. But there's some question of whether or not it actually means they will host it or District 3
if it
venue
would be within District 3. Right.
So if Delaware Valley beats State College and that is the matchup on the side of the District 3 bracket, it'll be the winner of State College or Delaware Valley going to either Wilson or Harrisburg. It would make a lot of sense for the Berks team to host it if Delaware Valley wins. Otherwise, you're making Delaware Valley drive even farther.
Right.
If State College wins, I could see them wanting to put it in like a place like Harrisburg, at Central Dauphin, at Landis. But we'll see. I'm gonna reach out to Rod Frisco, the webmaster, the head honcho at District 3 for things like that, and see what he has to say. I would like to get clarification on that, because there's a lot of information out there, and of course, there's no specific thing that says this is what's going to happen.
Man, I hope that matters.
So there's thoughts that last year that was more of a COVID-related thing, and that they might not be doing that this year. They might seek out neutral field. It'll just be somewhere in District 3. But hopefully I'll find that out this week. But I'm hoping that it's the District 3 gets the host, because then, hey, Wilson wins against Harrisburg this Saturday and get to play at Gursky one more time.
That would be cool.
I thought wasn't even a possibility a few weeks ago.
Right.
So I will find that out and update as soon as I hear back about that. And you heard Justin and I say already, we will be back next week, Sunday, November 21st, same time, 8:30 p.m.
I mean, I'm technically not wrong.
on all your favorite streaming platforms. All right, last thing to do, talk about the Central York game is our player of the game. We've been really offensive heavy the last few weeks, because obviously Jaden, Brad, and the offensive line have dominated the stat sheet and is what everyone's been talking about. And obviously they came away with huge performances this week as well. We've already talked to them in depth. And we also talked about the defense, and we're expanding from our positional units to encompass an entire half of the team here, because our player of the game, as we went over the stats, but I'll go back over it. The Wilson defense this past week limited Central York offense to 1 first down rushing, 11 yards on 11 carries, 1 of 8 on third down, and just 11 points, which, as I said already, fewest scored by them in over 4 years. Before Bo Pribulo was even the quarterback, probably when his brother was the quarterback at Central York, they hadn't scored that few of points. And I should have calculated their offensive average from 17 through this year, because it's got to be in the 40s, because there were very few games listed that Justin and I could see here from my research where they were 20 or under. They were 21 or higher. That's easily probably close to 55, 60 games in that sample, and there were maybe 4 or 5 where they failed to score 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, they scored a lot of points this year, and so to hold them to 11 is absolutely amazing.
It's a stellar accomplishment.
Here, let's look. So they scored 35, 21, 35, 2.
With that, the
I know
forfeit doesn't count, yeah.
But then 68, 60, 48, 53, 31, 60, 26, 11.
Look back to the year before. Look back to last year, what they were putting up.
Let's see. So last year,
because you're going to say a few 70s.
Right. So let's see here.
I know. This last year's team is not this year's team. It's just it was still the same quarterback, still the same offensive system. Some of the players have changed, but they've been putting up a lot of points for many, many years.
So last year, 55-0, 51-0, and then 56-3, 47-0, 70-0, 75-6, 42-15, 48-21, 49-27, and 37-21, and then 13 was what they got against St. Joe's Prep.
Right.
But that's incredible.
Yeah, it's just absolutely incredible. And we talked about Wilson was able to turn them over.
Yep.
They got an interception, and it was a great, spectacular catch by Gannon.
Well, and some of the things too. So when Wilson went up 3-0, I think they the guys on the stream who were broadcasting like next to me, which I know there were some difficulties. They were having some technical difficulties, but like let me. I don't know who they are, but I'll tell you what, they were prepared. Like the technical difficulties, we understand that.
Right, especially if they were not on internet, they were using, cellular internet.
Right.
That's
like
tough.
That's really tough. But they were prepared. They knew their stuff. They were asking me all kinds of questions that I did not have the answer to, and I'm texting you before the game. like I need help confirming some of this stuff. So they knew their stuff. They knew about Wilson and all of those things. But I heard them say, like, when Wilson went up, they're like, this is only the second time that Central York has, like, not held the lead, has been behind all year. I think they went down 7-0 to Exeter, was what the guys next to me said.
And that was it.
Right.
Until that game.
Right.
Which plays into our thing. They haven't played anyone since they played Exeter in the first game of the year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone else was a pushover.
They played Manheim Central last week, and they were better than
Township.
Yeah, Manheim Township last week. But yeah, I'd say, but from week 1 to week 1 of the playoffs, they played essentially no one.
They played pushovers. They weren't in a fight.
No. And then they beat Manheim Township.
Right.
But then they played.
They were also, I believe, late into the fourth quarter, up 26-7.
Right. So, like,
it was 26-14 was the final.
Right.
But that was a game they were in complete control of.
Right. This was the first time they were off schedule in a game since week 1 when they hung on. But they were like, it's week 1. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
All right. So let's listen to our interviews now. We caught up with a few of the Wilson senior football players and Coach Dahms. We're going to listen to those back-to-back right now.
Ready?
All right, we are here post-game. You know, if we're doing post-game interviews, good things happened on the football field tonight, guys. You just beat the number 1 seed in District 3, the defending district champions, the state runners-up last year, and I believe they're also ranked, 3rd in the state?
High.
They're up there pretty high, and you guys just came to their house and beat them. How does it feel?
Feels amazing.
We knew it was amazing. It was awesome. Never a doubt.
To prove everybody wrong like that, it just feels good. I don't know how to feel, honestly.
Well, you guys are on an amazing trajectory. 7 in a row now. You're going to play for a district title, which hasn't happened at Wilson since 2016. After 5 games, everyone doubted you, but it seems that you guys never gave up. You're here now. What was the practice like this week leading up to this big game?
Intense.
Really.
We just go at it with each other because we know that's how it's going to be in the game. I mean, I'm talking like because I'm offensive and defensive line. Like we just hit, go at it, and just don't hold back on each other because these guys aren't going to hold back.
But not even the physical part, like he said, like we got after it, but mentally, the penalties, there were less this week. And so mentally we were sharper this week, knowing who we had to come against and beat. So, I mean, mentally we had to be sharp more than anything.
But we got to give some props to the younger guys, that scout team that's making us a hell of a team week by week.
They get better every week, and
they're making us get better.
It's a win-win situation. That's how this program grows. Like, I mean, I remember we were on the scout team, and we got better every week. They're making us better. It's awesome. Like,
I mean, that's what we want to hear. Because so the future is bright, but we get to still talk about the present after another incredible offensive and defensive performance. But the talk of leading this week was about the two-headed monster in the backfield with your quarterback, Brett Hoffman, and Jaden. The two of you, over 160 yards apiece. Amazing. You, Jaden, 161 net. Brad, 167. He joins you in the 1,000-yard rushing club after this performance. Do you guys have a little back and forth of who can get more each week? Do you guys talk about your individual rushing yards?
No, we're not selfish. That's anybody on this team. Nobody's selfish on this team. We play for the men next to us, and as long as we win and we're going on to the next week, that's all that matters.
And his line mates opening up those holes for you.
Man, they don't get enough credit. They're the ones who make the holes and for us to run through it and for us to come. I mean, we run the ball 90% of the game, and I mean, without the front line, I mean, we can't do nothing. So, kudos to them, all 5 of them, starting from Kyle Hassard, John, Jack Durning, Alex Worley, and then Jack Dundle, and Brady Klein.
Brady Klein and Brendan too.
Brendan helping us get here.
62 rushes, just 7 passing attempts. It was just an all-out performance. Then they knew it was coming, and you're still able to get the job done, which is just a testament to your abilities on the football field. Now, you all played huge roles on defense as well. You held this team, this incredible team that is like 30-3 in their last 33 games, to only 11 points. What was the defensive game plan this week? What did you want to accomplish? What led to this success?
We knew they were susceptible to blitzes. And we knew they weren't the strongest, so we said our front line's better than your front line, and we went at it. Our linebackers filled gaps. I mean, you said what, 11 rushing yards?
was there. Yes, 11 net rushing yards for
11
Central
rushing
York.
yards. I mean, if they can't run the ball, and
Both,
you pass the ball,
actually.
it's not going to work. We knew they were going to air it out, and we knew they had a good quarterback.
Yeah, and you got to focus on the next play. Like, they obviously had a few really nice plays, big passes mostly. You know, like, we stopped them too. Like, that's the motto. Like, that's what Dahms says at halftime every time. Like, hey, this is a good team with explosive players. They're going to make plays. So what? We're going to make more. We're going to stop them more times than they make plays, and that's how we're going to win the game.
The thing I love most was when they went down, that wide receiver scored, and it was 11-3. I didn't see anybody's head there. Nobody was counting us out at all, not one of us. And we all knew what we had to do, and we went out and executed, and now we're here.
It's the amazing momentum that you guys have been able to get to at this point. 7 straight wins, going to play for that district title. We don't know when yet or where. Friday, Saturday next week. No opponent yet. But last question, guys. One thing that gets overlooked a lot of times is the kicking game. I believe Ben Rada had not attempted a field goal yet this year, and yet tonight he comes in, kicks 2, including one with 73 seconds left to play.
To be a sophomore and to be able to step up like that, and just, first of all, the holders are sophomore too. So for these guys, this group of kids, to just be able to do that, that's awesome. Like we said, like we trust you, like we know you're gonna get it done, and he did it. So
and they
shout out to
rewarded
Ben.
Yeah, shout out to
We
Ben.
worked on it in practice, and he built that confidence up, and we have it in him. We knew he was gonna make it.
Well, guys, congratulations once again. You got your 9th win, the biggest of the year, because your season continues, and you will play for the Hardware next week.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining us, and maybe we'll get to talk to you again next week, too.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, so that was our interviews with the players following the game against Central York. But, you know, we couldn't stop there. We had to talk to the man of the hour, Coach Dahms. I think he was pretty happy with the effort.
Yeah, I think he was pretty pleased on Friday night, yeah.
So let's listen to what Coach Doug Dahms had to say to us after Wilson's victory.
All right, one more interview. Coach Dahms, I know you went through the ringer, and as Susie said to me while you were doing the other interviews, a lot of ink coming because of the way this game went down. You made the rounds, had to talk to everyone. Thrilling victory, 14-11 on the road. We talked a couple weeks ago about how your team was going to have to be road warriors. What do you have to say about the success of your coaching staff and the players once this second season began?
As I told the kids last night, I said their confidence, I've just watched them go from a 2-3 team that, you know, if we fumble the ball or somebody scores, we're like, and now if we fumble the ball or somebody scores, we just get right back up and go. I mean, their confidence is sky high. Our offensive staff put together a great game plan. We executed it well, except, you know, we had the hold that stopped the one drive when we were almost in. We had the fumble that stopped another drive. I mean, we drove up and down the field, and we're coming away empty-handed, unfortunately. Defensive staff put a great game plan together, mixed up a lot of coverages, gave them little short routes, brought a lot of heat on the quarterback, said, hey, let's make him run and make him earn it, and it worked.
Did they do anything offensively or defensively that you hadn't seen before, that they hadn't shown? No, they pretty much ran what we expected. You know, you put Pribble in there, and that just means they got 4 receivers that, you know, we had a lot of pressure on him, and he would run, but boy, when he runs, the receivers break off routes, and then you got to cover, and their skill kids were probably a little better than some of our D-backs, especially with Cam out. Yes.
And, but hey, they kept everything in front of them. We didn't give up the big plays, and won the football game.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that will be brought up often, but it can't be overstated. Losing Cam Jones in the first half, your best defensive back, you know, 2-year start already as a junior, against a team that wants to throw the ball. And they got their yardage, 308 yards, but the thing that was so great tonight was the bend but don't break. The defense stepped up when they needed to. Gannon getting the interception off the deflection, holding them to field goals instead of touchdowns. Absolutely huge.
Of course, the 2 interceptions we dropped would have been. The one was 6 points.
Well, you know, defensive fundamentals this week. You do a tip drill, catching the ball.
You know, hey, they were in position.
So
you know,
they ran exactly what you'd expect them to, and I think they'd probably say the same thing about you. 62 rushes. You know, we talked about the identity that you have formed over the last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. Hoffman and Jones back-to-back, almost even. Brad had 29 carries, Jaden 27, both over 160 rushing yards. I mean, what do you have to say about the performance of the offensive line and those two back there?
I mean, the O-line is just doing a nice job getting on people. They get beat occasionally, but everybody does. And then, Jaden and Brad are just running tough. They're a two-headed monster, as I said before. And, we lost the third head of the three-headed monster, but, the two-headed monster was enough. They ran tough. The defense came up big when they had to. And, hey, that was the first 2 field goals we attempted all year.
Yes, we just talked to some of your players about, and they were had a lot of high praise for Ben and Adam.
Oh yeah,
2 sophomores, key roles in the spot
high
that you needed
snap
it.
and everything. Yeah.
And they got the job done. What was the point of emphasis defensively this week? The game plan. What did you want to accomplish other than trying to prevent them from scoring? What was the thing that you thought you could execute that would keep them out of the end zone?
We didn't want to give them the big pass. We were going to play deep and come up. We didn't want to let Pribble rush, so we had it run. So we had to make sure we had somebody in the middle spying all the time, and we wanted to get pressure on him, make him, flush him, and make him, throw it on the run.
So
Kids executed it.
Yeah, they absolutely executed all night long. You don't know who the opponent will be in the district championship game. You don't even know what day it'll be yet because of that. Do you expect to see one of them, or do you really think with the way Hempfield's playing, it's a toss-up and it could be either the Black Knights or the Cougars?
I think it could be either of them. I don't know. From what I understand, they said Harrisburg has a couple of dynamic, really good football players, but they have some weaknesses. They only have 32 kids on their roster, so it's hard to fill it. But and Hempfield's playing really good football, so the beauty of Hempfield wins, we play the district championship at home.
Yeah.
Road Warrior, come home.
Everyone would absolutely love that. Wilson's never gotten to host one of those because that's a relatively new opportunity. But congratulations, Coach, on 7 straight wins, going back to the district championship for the first time since 2016.
Feels good.
Okay, so that was our interview with Wilson head coach Doug Dahms. Fun interviews when you win a game like that. And you could hear it and see it on their faces and in their voices, how ecstatic and happy everyone was. And the season's getting long now. You're into mid-November, getting ready to play Game 13. But that felt really good.
Yeah,
that was my post on Facebook. That was fun.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago on Friday afternoon, I saw Coach Dahms and I said, "Hey, how are you?" Because it was just in passing. And he's like, and I joked, as good as could be expected for a Friday, because he always on Fridays, whenever I see him, it's the same thing, but on Fridays the answer is usually a little different because he's, I don't want to say anxious, but just wrapped up in being ready for the game.
Right.
And he made the comment, this is 2 weeks ago, ask me in 8 hours, right? And I said, I plan on it because that means we are having, that means we do well. And we can... we'll do an interview, or even if it's not an interview, we will talk to him,
Right.
And we didn't have the chance for that conversation this week, but I was thinking the same thing Friday afternoon. I was like, well, hopefully in 8 hours we'll be talking to Coach Dahms, and we got to, so
yeah,
I'll take it.
All right, so we're moving on now. We're gonna put Game 12 in the rearview mirror, much like the high school team. I'm sure they got to celebrate Friday night and maybe into Saturday, but then it was time to move on. And by yesterday evening, they knew what was up next, and that is the Harrisburg Cougars. We're heading to Severance Field Saturday afternoon, 1:00, and it's a familiar foe. Wilson has played Harrisburg twice in the last 3 years. 2018, we had to go there. Lost, I think it was 36-12. That was a very rough start for Wilson. I think we were down 28-0 in the first 6 minutes of the game. Just mistakes on kickoffs and on offense. Game short. I think there was a fumble on the opening kickoff. I believe there was a pick six, all in the first 3 drives, and we were down 20-0 3 minutes into the game. So something ridiculous like that. Once things settled, it was a much more even game.
Right.
You dug such a big hole, you couldn't dig yourself out of it.
Right.
Then the next year, we were the 1 seed. Harrisburg was the 4. They came to Gursky, a very, very good team once again. It was a great game, back and forth game. Wilson drove the length of the field as time expired. A penalty on the last play allowed for an untimed down, and Wilson came up just short. The touchdown would have given the game to the Bulldogs and advanced to the district championship. Instead, it was Harrisburg going on. So you lose outright to them in 2018 and 2019, and then last year happened. And for all intents and purposes, Harrisburg ended Wilson's season last year too. Yeah. And I don't think anyone's going to forget that. Now, whether you actually think it's Harrisburg's fault or you blame District 3, that's up for interpretation.
Right. So I would say Harrisburg took the spot. I don't blame them.
Yeah, it's a little bit.
But they took the spot that Wilson would have gotten.
And to be fair, all of their players on Twitter said it was unfair that we didn't get to fill in.
Right.
Like, this isn't like an anti-Harrisburg thing. I'm just pointing out that they were the one, essentially, because of the way District 3 operated last year, they got bumped up after they met the criteria, and Wilson got left out. But like Harrisburg players were throughout Twitter, once District 3 was like, no, we're not replacing you, even though we literally set these brackets 20 minutes ago. Harrisburg players were very much in Wilson's corner that the Bulldogs should be added to the bracket. But District 3 made their decision, and Wilson missed the playoffs for the first time since 2005, I believe. First time in Coach Dahms' head coaching career. So here they are once again. And back at Severance, not at Gursky. On the road, Saturday afternoon, different day than you're used to. But you're playing a team that's 9-1. You know, their only hiccup, Governor Mifflin, on a short week where they didn't realize
they found out on like Wednesday night.
Middle of the week.
I remember, I don't know, it was one of the Berks County like people that covers says, man, that's a tough offense to prepare for on a normal week, because it's not an offense that a lot of, especially the big schools, see. And to do that when you find out that's who you're playing on like a Wednesday, that's really tough, because you essentially have one day to prepare. So that's not to take anything away. I think Governor Mifflin, it wasn't like that was the difference, but that is really tough. And Governor Mifflin is really good, as we've seen all year.
Yeah, so. I mean, they may be the best boundary team in all classifications. Honestly, it would be interesting to see them play St. Joe's or a team like that. I mean, it can't happen, but it would be interesting.
I think you can make a strong argument that they probably are the best boundary team. They're
going to have chances to prove it.
Yeah. So the second best boundary, maybe Mount Lebanon or someone like that. I'm just saying, the biggest school from Whippeal, is usually a safe bet in that, in that regard.
Yeah, and Mount Lebanon's playing a non-boundary team in Pittsburgh Central Catholic this week in their Whippeal championship. But anyways, back to Harrisburg. The 9 games they won, they went out to the Whippeal versus everyone showdown and beat 5A Pine Richland, who everyone should be familiar with the name Pine Richland, because last year they came back and beat Mifflin to go to the state championship game. Pine Richland ended Wilson's season in 2014 in the state semifinals. Pine Richland has won multiple state championships in the last few years. Harrisburg went out and beat them 26-21. Now, I know Pine Richland had that offseason upheaval with the removal of the head coach and the coaching staff. Most, if not all, of the assistants left. They had a rocky start. They rebounded and have had a pretty good year. But Harrisburg went there and beat them 26-21. They then went to Hazleton, beat them 31-21. Then they went to Neffsville and beat Manheim Township in overtime 20-17 before losing to Governor Mifflin on that short week where they had the fine replacement game 49-13. Then they won every game left on their schedule. Carlisle 34-14, Altoona 31-0, CD East 25-20, Cumberland Valley 45-7. State College was their last real scare. They overcame State College 15-13 before blowing out Chambersburg 46-0. And then beating Carlisle in the first round of the playoffs 36-7. And Carlisle was hot entering the playoffs. They had to win the last couple of weeks to make the field. They did so, even upsetting CD East, but got beat up by Harrisburg 36-7 at Severance. And then just this past week, Harrisburg hosted Hempfield, who destroyed CD East the week before at Central Dauphin. It's at Central Dauphin East. What was it, 36-2 or 35-2, something like that?
36-2, I think.
And Hempfield went to Harrisburg, and the Cougars beat the Black Knights 32-10. And I know kind of what happened to Wilson in 2018 is what happened to Hempfield in this game. They gave up, I think it was a punt return. They went 3 and out and gave up a punt return touchdown. And then Harrisburg's first offensive series, I think they gave up an 88-yard rushing touchdown. So within the first 4 minutes of the game or something like that, they were down 13, 14, nothing, something like that. Immediately, And again, you take those away, it's a 1-possession game.
Right.
I mean, I know you can't do that, but I'm just saying, like, those big plays are killer.
Right.
Big plays kill teams and kill playoff hopes, and that's what happened to Hempfield, and that's what Wilson has to stave off this week. Harrisburg has some really nice skill players, and they're young too. They're starting a freshman at quarterback. Sean Lee is the guy. He did not play in the game against Governor Mifflin. But they also have a great group of running backs, and seeing if I can get their names here. Okay, yeah. So the first one is Makai Hopkins. He's their Thunderback. He's 6'2", 230. He is a junior. And then they have their Lightning is their other junior running back, Kyle Williams. Both of them had those first 2 touchdowns I talked about. Kyle Williams took the punt back to the house. Makai Hopkins had the big 88-yard run. So they're able to hit you with size and speed.
I was going to say, just for the record, you said the Thunder had the 88-yard touchdown?
Yeah, yes,
okay.
I did.
Right.
Yes, that is true.
Just to clarify.
Yes. At the over the course of the season, both of those guys have played all 11 games. They've accounted for 210 carries for 1,170 yards and 12 touchdowns. So Hopkins and Williams are the guys to watch. Hopkins wears jersey number 7. Williams wears jersey number 4. And freshman quarterback Sean Lee wears jersey number 8. Now, they have gone to their junior quarterback as well when Sean's been injured. Zakai Lewis is also a junior, so you're hearing a lot of underclassmen on this team. Most of the passing attempts have been by freshman Sean Lee. He's 83 of 132 for 866 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. They obviously they have other people that can carry the rock, but Williams and Hopkins are the 2 big guys. And when needed, freshman quarterback Sean Lee will also do things on the ground, especially when things break down. He likes to throw on the move, threaten, run, and then pass. So it's going to be another tough task for the defensive secondary, staying on their guys without giving up space. Their number 1 receiver also is the running back, Kyle Williams. They like to throw to him often. He has 57 receptions for 636 yards. Up next is their first big-time senior contributor, Justin Cook, who has 45 catches for 544 yards and 4 touchdowns.
They spread it around.
They do absolutely spread it around. Outside of Williams, Cook, and Hopkins, though, there's not a lot else on the stat sheet. It's done by the majority of the offense runs through those 3 guys: Lee, Hopkins, and Williams, and Cook. Sorry, those 4 guys. Those are your big ones. Again, Sean Lee wears number 8 for those interested in jerseys and watching who you need to pay attention to. 4, 5, 8, and 7 and 8. So single digit numbers. Be wary of them throughout the game. Single digit numbers are not good. Because they're very good. That's the problem.
Right.
So yeah, just very good players, dangerous players, and young players, which isn't good, But that's a future problem. Let's worry about this
future.
It's
Join Justin.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I don't know that they have the immense size that they've had on the line in years past. I know when they came to Gursky in 2019,
D1 linemen for
they had
a while
some
now.
big guys. obviously Makai Hopkins, the running back, also plays inside linebacker, so he's a guy that's going to be dangerous when stopping the offense the way it's operating with Hoffman and Jones. So offensive line, you got to be ready. That's where the game's going to be won once again.
Right. You've got to be able to play the way we want to play. We got to make this all right. There's no secret about it. We're going to want to run the ball. We have to be able to run the ball.
Right.
We have to be able to not give up the big play. The things we heard from Coach Dahms, like in the interview after this game, we were able to run the ball. We were able to not give up too many big plays. That's what you have to do. And I think it was Ramsey was saying in his interview, like, look, they're going to get some, right? Like, they're going to get some big plays. Like, they're too good not to. But you've got to limit them, and you've got to have a response. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. So Wilson, the 5 seed at Harrisburg, the 2 seed, Severance Field in Harrisburg this Saturday, November 20th, 1 o'clock kickoff. Yeah, we will be back on this show in 1 week's time to discuss that district championship game. That is for the trophy. Again, Wilson hasn't played in that game since 2016, which was the first year of 6A, 6 classifications. I know people were wondering why isn't this game at Hershey Park. They stopped being held at Hershey Park following the 2017 season. So this is actually the 4th year that the higher seed, the better seed that remains, hosts the district championship game. And I think actually it was Central Dauphin. I think the last 3 years actually was at Central Dauphin. I think 1 year that was the neutral field, but Central Dauphin was in it. I think actually the last 3 years, I'd have to double check that, but I think it's been at Central Dauphin as part of the neutral field and then to be played by the better seeded team.
Right.
Until last year was Central York, so maybe that one wasn't at Central Dauphin. But the year before, the 2 years prior, it had been Harrisburg versus Central Dauphin back-to-back years. Both years, I believe it was played at Landis Field.
Well, last year was probably at Central York because it was the COVID year, so they probably just hosted at
That's
the
what I was
school.
thinking, but I looked up a lot of brackets and stuff recently, so it's all kind of running together. So forgive me for getting a little bit confused there. But yeah, I mean, it's great to be doing this show in such a positive way this late in the year and know that we have one more to go at least.
Yeah, let's get a couple more. That'll be fun.
Let's hope for another great performance from the offense and defense, get more individual and team accolades.
Right, we talked about we got better from week 11 to week 12. This team got better.
Let's get better from week 12 to week 13.
If you want the hardware, and it's there. You have fought so hard, and there's a lot to be proud of in that regard, no matter what. But you fought so hard to come back from what, lots of people counted you out for. And that goal is still on the table. We've been preaching it for 2 months. That goal is still on the table, that next goal. And you have a chance to go get it done on Saturday. Get better this week. They talked about how week of practice was really intense. Let's make it happen again.
Ratchet it up even
make
a notch
it happen
higher.
again.
And
get better this week and give yourself a shot on Saturday.
Bring home an 8th District 3 football championship. That was the goal at the beginning of the season, and that goal is now within reach. All you got to do is play one more game and play like they played the last 7 weeks, and they will be at a minimum in the game, if not emerging victorious. All right, I think that's it from us here at the Bulldog Hour. We appreciate everyone's support, tuning in, whether it's live or after the fact. And if anyone has any questions, if you feel free to reach out to either of us, whatever manner, whether it's in person, over the phone, email, social media, whatever. We're very receptive, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. We hope to see many of you on Saturday afternoon in Harrisburg as the Bulldogs play the Cougars for the 2021 District 3 6A Championship. For Justin Raffoff, I'm Joe Mays. And until next time, remember, go Bulldogs.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.